The most successful religion on earth has no name. It has no prophet, no holy book you would recognize, and no single God. And yet almost every human alive is a believer. You are one of them. You practiced its faith today, and you didn't even notice. I'm talking about money. That sounds like a metaphor. It isn't. I mean it as plainly as I can. Money is a faith, and it works the exact same way the old faiths work. Look at the paper in your wallet. It isn't gold. It isn't backed by gold. It is a piece of cotton with a number printed on it, and it has value for one reason only, because everyone around you believes it does. The moment they stop believing, it becomes confetti. That is not how a tool behaves. That is how a God behaves. So here is the question that should unsettle you. Why do you trust money? And once you really look at that trust, why does it feel exactly like faith? To answer that, we have to go back to the very first banks on earth, because they were not banks, they were temples. Let me lay two threads side by side, because for most of history, people thought they were opposites. On one side, money, cold, rational, worldly, the stuff of merchants and markets. On the other, religion, sacred, invisible, eternal, the stuff of priests and prayer. One belongs to Caesar, the other to God. We are taught to keep them in separate rooms. But watch what happens when you listen to the words we actually use. When a bank lends you money, that loan is called credit. Credit comes straight from the Latin crediere, which means to believe. The same root gives us the creed, the statement of religious faith you recite in church. A creditor is, quite literally, one who believes in you. And it keeps going. We speak of the redemption of a debt and the redemption of a sinner. We ask for the forgiveness of debts and the forgiveness of sins in the very same prayer. To be in the red, in arrears, in default, is to have trespassed. This is not a coincidence of language. It is a fingerprint. When two things share that much vocabulary, it is usually because, somewhere far back, they were the same thing. So let's go find the place where they were one. Picture Mesopotamia, more than 4,000 years ago. The first cities are rising out of the mud of the Tigris and the Euphrates. And at the center of each city stands one building, taller than all the rest. The temple, the house of the god. Now here is what they don't tell you in the religion books. That temple was also the first bank. The god owned vast estates, herds, granaries, and storehouses of silver and grain. The priests managed it all. So when a farmer needed seed to plant, he didn't go to a banker. He went to the temple and borrowed from the god. At harvest, he paid the god back with interest. The earliest written contracts we have, pressed into clay, are not poems or prayers. They are receipts, loans, records of who owed what. The temple held the community's wealth, because it was the one place everyone trusted. You would not trust your neighbor with your silver, but you would trust the god. The sacred and the financial were not in separate rooms. They were the same room, behind the same locked door. Writing itself, the technology that lets me speak to you now, was very likely invented for this, to keep the temple's accounts. So the first thing humans ever wrote down was debt, and the place they kept it was holy, which raises a sharper question. When money finally walked out of that temple and into your hand, did it leave the gods behind? Look at the coins, and you will see that it didn't. The coin is one of the great inventions of the human mind, born around 260 years ago in Lydia, a kingdom in what is now Turkey. Small lumps of electrum, a natural blend of gold and silver, stamped with a mark to certify their worth. That stamp is the whole trick. Because a lump of metal is just a lump of metal, what makes it money is the stamp, an authority vouching for it, saying, trust this. And who in the ancient world held the ultimate authority? So look at what they stamped onto the coins. Gods. The owl of Athena on the silver of Athens, the heads of Apollo, of Zeus, of Hercules. And as kings grew bolder, their own faces, the god-kings who claimed to be divine, the coin became a tiny portable shrine. To hold it was to hold the face of a god in your palm. This was not decoration. It was the source of the value. The coin worked because it carried the authority of something sacred, something everyone already believed in. The god guaranteed the gold. 2,000 years later, reach into your own pocket. The faces have changed, but there is still a face on the money, and there is still, printed right there, a declaration of faith. We will come back to those 4 words. First, we need to see how deep the bond between debt and sin really runs, because they were not just spoken in the same words. They were forgiven in the same prayer. Here is something that sounds modern, but is older than almost everything. The idea that you are born owing. Across the ancient world, debt was the engine of human misery. A bad harvest, a single loan you couldn't repay, and you lost your land, then your freedom, then your children, sold into bondage to settle the account. So religion did something extraordinary. It offered relief. The ancient Near East had a tradition of the clean slate. A new king or a holy year would cancel debts, free the bondservants, return the land. The Hebrew Bible calls it the Jubilee. Every 50th year, debts wiped, slaves freed, the ledger reset to zero. The word we use for being set free from a debt is redemption. The word for a soul set free from sin is also redemption. This is why the old prayer can say, "Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors." Sin was understood as a debt owed to God, a deficit in a cosmic ledger. To atone was to pay it down. To be saved was to have your debt canceled by someone who paid it for you. Do you see what has happened? The deepest story of the soul, sin and salvation, is built out of the language of money. Religion borrowed the accountant's ledger to describe your standing before God. And money borrowed religion's authority to make a number on a clay tablet feel binding, eternal, holy. The 2 threads are no longer side by side. They are braided, and soon we would cut money loose from metal entirely and ask you to believe in nothing at all. For most of history, money still had a body. Gold, silver, something you could bite. The faith was anchored to a metal you could weigh. In the Middle Ages, that began to change, and the change happened, once again, inside the religious world. The great monasteries and the orders of warrior monks became the bankers of Europe. If you were a pilgrim traveling to the Holy Land, you did not want to carry gold through 1,000 miles of bandits. So you deposited your coin at one house and received a letter, a piece of paper, and at your destination, you presented the letter and drew out your money. Sit with how strange that is. For the length of your journey, your wealth existed only as a promise written on paper, honored by an institution you trusted because it was holy. The money had become pure belief. This is the hinge of the whole story. Money was learning to live without a body. The promise was becoming the money. A banknote, when it finally arrived, was nothing but this, a written promise to pay that everyone agreed to treat as the payment itself. We were being trained, slowly, over centuries, to accept paper for gold and the promise for the paper. The faith was being stretched thinner and thinner, until one day in the 20th century, somebody cut the last thread to the metal and dared us to keep believing anyway. And we did. For a long time, the paper in your pocket was a sacred contract. $1, a pound, said so right on its face, was a promise. Bring it to the treasury and you could exchange it for a fixed weight of gold. The belief had a backstop. If you ever doubted, you could demand the metal. Then, across the 20th century, country by country, governments quietly removed the backstop. In 1971, the United States severed the final link. The dollar would no longer be exchangeable for gold. Not for you, not for anyone. Stop and feel the size of that moment. Overnight, the money in every wallet on earth became what we now call fiat, from the Latin for let it be done, the word of command. It is backed by no metal, no commodity, nothing you can hold. It is backed purely and entirely by collective belief. It has value because the government declares it, and because everyone else agrees to keep believing. That is all. That is the whole foundation. And the astonishing thing is, it worked. We barely flinched. We had been so well trained in this faith that we let go of the last solid thing, gold, and kept right on trusting in something completely invisible, sustained by nothing but the shared conviction of strangers. Which is the exact definition of the thing we were taught to call religion. A belief in something invisible, held by a whole community at once, that shapes how they live. Money had become scripture, and like scripture, it would punish the unbeliever. So here is the convergence, the thing this whole story has been walking toward. Money and religion were never opposites. They are the same machine, running the same program, and the program is belief. Think about what every faith actually does. It takes a crowd of strangers who have no reason to trust each other and gives them one invisible thing to believe in together. And once they all believe, they can cooperate on a scale no other animal can manage. A shared fiction is the most powerful technology our species ever built. It is how a few thousand humans became 8 billion who can trade and build and move as one. Money is exactly that kind of shared fiction. So is a nation. So is a God. They are all invisible things we agree to believe in so that we can act together. Belief is the technology. Money and religion are simply two of its temples. And now watch what happens when the belief fails. When a congregation stops believing, the religion dies quietly. But when a nation stops believing in its money, the death is violent. The price of bread doubles by the afternoon. Savings turn to dust. People haul banknotes in wheelbarrows to buy a loaf, then burn the notes for warmth, because the paper is worth more as fuel than as money. Hyperinflation is not an economic event. It is a crisis of faith. It is what apostasy looks like when the god is money. That is the turn. Trust is not something money has. Trust is what money is. The instant we all stop believing, it is gone, the way a god is gone the moment the last worshiper walks away. So look again at the paper in your wallet. On the dollar, 4 words are printed in plain sight. The same 4 words that have been there since the anxious years of the Civil War and the Cold War. In God we trust. We tend to read that as a leftover of religion clinging to the state, but turn it around. It may be the most honest thing ever printed on money, because trust, faith in something you cannot see, is the only thing holding that paper up. You are a believer. Every time you accept a wage, or hand over a card, or check a number on a screen and feel rich or feel poor, you perform an act of faith as old as the temples of Mesopotamia. You believe the number is real. You believe the stranger across the counter believes it too. And on the strength of that shared, invisible conviction, the entire world turns. That is the unsettling part. You probably think you are too modern, too rational to worship anything. But you carry your scripture in your pocket. You recite its creed every day you spend. You have unshakable faith in a thing with no body, sustained by nothing but the belief of millions of strangers you will never meet. You are devout. You are a true believer in paper. And the cathedral you worship in is the one place you were sure held no gods at all. That's what this channel is for. I'm glad you're here, and I'll see you next time.